Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cozy Chair and Happy President's Day! Today is such a fun day to celebrate our Presidents of the United States. Well, I have a really fun book for you about our very first president. This is, I am George Washington! Now remember how I love these books, I Am books? We have also read I Am Abraham Lincoln. So make sure today that you go to the playlist, the I Am playlist, and listen to I Am Abraham Lincoln. Before I read this book, I've got to tell you a few things. So, the first thing is a quiz. Do you know the first 3 presidents of the United States? You know the first one, because I just told you. It is George Washington! You are right. And the second one is, do you know? Do you know the name of the second president? It's John Adams! John Adams came right after President Washington. And the third one, have you ever heard of the Declaration of Independence? That was written by Thomas Jefferson, and he was our 3rd president. So, pretty fun, huh? Now, a few other things. Can you guess why I might have a teddy bear up there? Did you know that we call it a teddy bear because of one of our presidents? And that was Theodore Roosevelt. Now, Teddy is a nickname for Theodore. And Theodore Roosevelt loved hunting. He loved to go hunting. And one time he went to Mississippi and was hunting for bears. And everybody in that hunting party had gotten a bear, except President Roosevelt. So he was kind of sad, but then one of his assistants, he found a bear and he tied him up and said to the president, "Look, there's a bear, shoot the bear." And the president said, "Well, that's not very sportsmanlike." So he wouldn't shoot the bear, even though he was a really big game hunter. So that news spread all around the United States, and everybody started calling them teddy bears and started giving them to each other. So now if you have a teddy bear at home, you'll know that we call them teddy bears because of President Roosevelt. And before I get to our book, there is a super silly story about a president. Did you know that President Taft got stuck in the bath? He really did. It's really true. And I tried to find that book for you at the library, but it was all checked out. So go to the library and check out that book, and then you can have a good old laugh at one of our presidents. Okay, so now it's finally time to read about George Washington. Now this is written by Brad Meltzer and illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulos, and it is published by Dial Books for young readers. I just love these books, you guys. If you parents out there are looking for great presents, these are great. I am George Washington. You know what one of the hardest things in life is? Being the first. When you're the first to try something new, there's no one to show you the way. But when I was little, I wasn't the first. I was the 4th of 9 children. That's a lot of brothers and sisters. How do you think I learned to deal with people fighting? Oh, he knows how to deal with that. We lived in a place called Mount Vernon, which had a huge river running through the backyard and unexplored forest in every direction. At 5 years old, this was the world I knew. If you wanted to explore the forest, you had to be the first one to go inside. I think you're brave enough to go in there, George? Not yet, but soon. Can you see George? Look at him getting ready to go in the forest. Remember, he's the first. People will tell you that I was a perfect boy. They'll say I didn't tell a lie after I chopped down a cherry tree. But that cherry tree story isn't true. Like most boys back then, I liked swimming, fishing, and riding horses. I was a decent athlete, but nothing spectacular. Mostly, I was an ordinary kid. Look at him riding his horse and fishing and swimming. I liked books and even liked to dance. I was great at it. In school, my best subject was math. I was pretty good at writing, but I was always a terrible speller. You spelled beginning wrong. And harvest, too. Don't you realize I'm going to be one of the world's best leaders? I believe that almost as much as I believe you're a great dancer. See what he's saying? Don't you know? Don't you realize I'm going to be one of the world's best leaders? But remember when I said that it's hard to be the first? It's easier when there's someone showing you how it's done. This is my brother Lawrence. He was 14 years old. He was 14 years older than me. No one had a bigger impact on my life. What are you doing? My military uniform, so I can fight for our country. You like it? It's amazing! I loved hearing the stories of his adventures. Thanks to my big brother, I knew I wanted to serve in the military. See his brother? His brother was fighting for his country. And George thought that that was really neat and really important. Soon, though, I saw how uncertain life could be. When I was 11, my dad died. We couldn't afford proper schooling, so my brothers had to teach me at home. I didn't go to high school or college. But I was committed to learning and building myself. You spelled it wrong. Oh, man, he keeps spelling beginning wrong. As a boy, I copied all the rules from a book of virtues. There were 110 in all. Number 11, don't gnaw your nails. Number 12, don't stand too close to people when talking or you'll spit on them. Number 100, don't use a fork or knife to clean your teeth. Instead, use a toothpick. The most important was the first one. Every action done in company ought to be done with some sign of respect. I guess that one covers spitting on people, too. Look at him copying all of those rules. That's a lot of rules. When I turned 15, my mother told me I needed to get a job. Since I was good at math and precision, I became a surveyor, someone who explores large areas of land to find their boundaries. At 16, I went with a wealthy family called the Fairfaxes to survey the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Shenandoah Valley. There were no roads. The rain was fierce, and one night the straw mat I was sleeping on caught on fire. The next night was even harder. But we kept going. Don't give up. I like his persistence. He is really sticking to it. There was something special in treading a new path, something beautiful in doing what no one had ever done before. Look what he found. Isn't that a wonderful thing to discover? Just being around the Fairfaxes changed my life. They helped me get work. I observed how they lived, how they dressed, and how they ate. I even learned how to properly. He really does like to dance. Dance! That wasn't a joke. I was a great dancer. At the Fairfaxes, I ate with fine silver and beautiful china. At home, I ate with sticks at a fire. It was as if I was living in two worlds. But to me, both were equally important. You know you can eat with your rich folks every night. Yes, I know. Look at him, though. He knows what it's like to live among the rich and among the poor. That's probably really important, don't you think? When I got older, I joined the military. In my first big battle, I was on the British side, fighting against the French and Native Americans. I was nearly shot 4 times. 4 musket balls ripped through my clothing, but nothing could stop me. While others were screaming, I raced across the battlefield, keeping people calm. That's a real neat thing that he was able to calm people down. We lost the battle, but I became the commander of all the Virginia's fighting forces. At the age of 23, I ran for office to be a member of the House of the Virginia Legislature. I lost. That's right, I lost. Next time, I'll be better organized. It didn't stop me. I tried again, and this time I won. In fact, I won re-election every time after that. But the world as I knew it was about to change. Remember when I was growing up, the United States didn't exist yet. Back then, there was no states, just colonies. All of them controlled by England. We were ruled by the British king named George III. The king is unfair. He wants us to pay more for everything, like stamps and tea. We deserve to be free. They had traveled all the way over to a new country, and King George III was still controlling them and making them pay taxes. In April 1775, the first shots were fired in Massachusetts, in Lexington and Concord. It took 8 days for the news of this new American Revolution to reach me. That's Lexington and Concord. That's where the American Revolution started, because it's where the first shot was. Are we going to let the colonists in Massachusetts fight alone, or are we going to join them? It was one of the biggest questions in history. The answer came at a meeting called the Second Continental Congress. Our 13 colonies decided we would fight together against King George III. All we needed was a leader for the battle. Guess who they chose? You look like you're in charge. Some say it was because I was a natural leader. Some say it was simply because I was taller than everyone else. But let me tell you a secret. I was the only one wearing a military uniform. It wasn't an accident. On the day I came ready to lead, ready to do the job, ready to be the first. Was it easy to be in power? Never. Our side didn't have enough food, clothing, or weapons. Their side was well-fed and well-armed. Our side didn't have trained soldiers. We were farmers and fishermen. Their side was the greatest fighting force in the world. In the winter at Valley Forge, some of our troops didn't eat for days. They wore rags and had to go in barefoot in the snow. Can you believe that? Can you imagine having to go barefoot in the snow? Wouldn't that be awful? So how'd we win? We were smarter. We wrote plans in invisible ink so the British couldn't read them. Cool, right? Invisible ink! My code name was 711. Look, they wrote it and it would disappear. Secret meeting with 711. We were sneakier. We launched surprise raids like the ones where we crossed the Delaware River. But most important, we wouldn't give in. They were fighting for a king. We were fighting for a cause, for freedom. Also, let's not forget we had a weapon they'd never had. We had General George Washington. This is them crossing the Delaware. It was late at night and very, very cold, but it was a surprise attack. After we beat the British Army, a new government was formed. I presided over the convention that wrote our Constitution, which created the new laws for our country. The brand new United States of America was free to explore its own futures. Now all we needed was to pick our first president. Someone brave, someone strong, someone trustworthy enough to handle all that power. Again, guess who they chose? You know, you're so popular you could have made yourself a king of America. Yes, I know. At the end of the American Revolution, George III asked someone what Washington planned to do after the war. The king was told that George was going to return to his farm. If he does that, King George said, he will be the greatest man in the world, and that's exactly what he did. And he did it again when he left the presidency after his second term. Some say it was my most heroic act. Instead of putting myself first, I put my faith in my country. I put my faith in you. Look at that. He just went back to doing what he did before. In life, there are many ways to lead. You can be a quiet leader, a tough leader, a bold leader. But leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. When you're in a position of power, always look out for those who put their faith in you, and always forge your own road, because sometimes the most important trail is the one that no one has ever taken before. When you do those things, you will clear a path that will lead the way for others. Every year we still celebrate his birthday. President's Day is a national holiday. You know that's why we celebrate President's Day? It's George Washington's birthday. He's got the only state named after a president. He was even on one of the country's first postage stamps. People think he wore a wig, but he never did. He powdered his hair white, which was the style back then. I just like that he wore fake teeth. Did you know it? Made of wood, though they were ivory. Gross! You can see them at Mount Vernon. first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. Leadership doesn't come from charisma or personality. It comes from courage. The courage to do what's right. The courage to serve others. The courage to go first. I am George Washington. Today they call me the father of our country. I have the courage to do what no one's done before. Look at that. There's George Washington. What did you think about that book? Did you learn something new about George Washington? Yeah, that he had fake teeth that were made of ivory, or that he powdered his hair white. Lots of interesting things. So, I hope that you enjoyed that story. And remember to go back and listen to I Am Abraham Lincoln. It's on a playlist called the I Am Books. It's also on the playlist of nonfiction books. So, thanks for coming today, and have a fabulous President's Day. See you next time.